I'm here in Laughlin. I left the house about 10:55. I drove about 80, 90 miles around Southern California into Nevada. And then I'm here in, like I said, in Laughlin. I'm staying in Harrah's Casino, which is a dump, but for $20 a night, hey, not a bad deal. Get a shower in the morning. Coming out of Irvine, I took the toll road over the hill to the 91, to the 60, to the 10, and then up into 29 Palms. It was fairly cold. I thought about stopping and putting my inner jacket on at one point because it was overcast in the Riverside area and the Orange County area. But once I could see the clouds end right at the Banning Pass, and so I figured I'll just wait. And once I got into the sunshine, it was not bad. It was pretty nice. The problem is the Banning Pass is always windy. Going down the 10, it's fine because the wind is kind of at your back. As soon as I took the turn to head up to 29 Palms, my God, it was a scary experience. And in fact, it was so scary that if I was coming back this way, I would avoid going back through that area. At some points, I had the motorcycle. I was tucked into the motorcycle and I was leaning down into the wind. And it was fine if it was a steady wind, but the problem was it was gusty, or you'd hit a line of trees and the wind would stop, and then you'd go beyond the trees and it would hit you again. And I could see the mountains. I was heading towards the mountains, and so it was just like, just get to the mountains. It was about 15 minutes of that gusty straight winds that were just brutal. And it was a little scary. I was able to keep my line and be able to stay. I slowed down to maybe 70 to just kind of keep in control of the bike and everything. So, and then once I got to the foothills, it was fine. Got up into the foothills and up and around into 29 Palms, and stopped at 29 Palms for lunch at McDonald's. And I also stopped at the Joshua Tree Visitor Center to get a National Parks passport and to get a stamp for Joshua Tree, since I had been there before. But and then I headed off to Amboy Crater, which was another about an hour ride from there. And it was kind of gusty along some parts of the way as well. The road wasn't too good heading up into the mountains, but then once I got into the mountains, looks like it was almost newly paved. And man, I could zip. There was nobody around me. I was zipping through there, and I could see Amboy Crater about 30 miles off. And so finally got down to Route 66 there, turned left onto Route 66, and then a quick left into the Amboy Crater parking lot. And very hot by now. Now it's in the 80s. And so I decided to go without gloves, and I was not going to go hike the Amboy Crater, so I decided to just use my drone and go fly over to the crater. But when I opened up my drone case, the cell phone that I used for my drone was dead. So I had to use my regular cell phone, which I don't think it interacted with the drone very well, because I went to fly it and then it would disconnect from the controller. And so I brought it back in, I reconnected it, got it all set up again, and decided, all right, this time it's going to work. And I went and flew it further towards the crater and essentially lost sight of it. and that's when the controller disconnected from it. I couldn't hear it as well. So now I was a little bit freaked, like, oh no, how am I going to turn it around? I kind of played to turn it around like how I thought it would turn around and see if I could fly it back towards me. But I was afraid if I did that, I'd head it off into a direction that was not even remotely close to me. So I started hiking towards the crater, and I got out maybe a couple hundred yards and caught a glimpse of it. And so, and I thought about reconnecting the controller. And so I went and turned it off, turned it back on, and when I reconnected it, it actually went and decided to fly return to home. So, well, I had launched it under an awning, and I was afraid that if it returned to home, it was going to crash into the awning. So I had to try to override it, and I rode it pretty well, and was able to finally get it back, but that was a little freaky. So I put that away and pulled out my GoPro and started doing some videoing of my GoPro of the on the motorcycle. I think I got some pretty good footage. A couple times I had to try go over to the railroad tracks, and there was a train both times that stopped me. And at one point, the train stopped in the middle of the railroad crossing. So I turned the motorcycle off and stood there for a while until it finally got out of the way. But then I made my way to the Goff's schoolhouse, which is in Goff, California. Again, part of the original Route 66. It was essentially a rebuilt schoolhouse that I guess was used back in the 30s as a stopover point on Route 66. But now the schoolhouse was actually closed, and then they had these walking paths you could walk around, and it was essentially just junk. They called it history, but I just saw it as junk. So I only spent about 10 minutes there and turned around and left. And by this time I was ready to just kind of be done for the day. So I still had another about an hour to go to Laughlin. So again, I took off on Route 66 until I hit 95. Again, kind of a washboard road, but unbelievably straight. And I was the only one on it, and I could just zip. Kind of exhilarating and fun. And then turned into towards Laughlin as you kind of descend back from the mountains, the high desert, into the river valley there, into Laughlin, and got here to the hotel. Had some sushi tonight, and I'm basically ready for bed. So we'll get up tomorrow and do it again, and talk to you tomorrow night.